This is my specific groups 22.2 exercise prescription. So there are two different types of contraindications. These are absolute and relative contraindications. Absolute contraindications are where like the person cannot take can take no participation in exercise at all. So for example, this could be a recent heart attack, severe illness or severe infections. These will all prevent the person from actually taking part in any sort of sport or exercise and means they just can't take part as it would be too risky. Relative contraindications are a bit different. This is where there are limitations which are made to the amount of exercise and what sort of exercise a person can do. Examples of this are history of high blood pressure, um, if you currently have high blood pressure, or if you're like in an advanced pregnancy. These will therefore limit the amount of exercise that can be done, as the person could risk injury, or if they do too much exercise, this could cause serious illnesses or possibly death. So therefore, absolute means that they cannot take part at all and they must not do any exercise, whereas relative means they can take part, but it has to be in a certain like controlled environment with doing stuff that they can comfortably do. So my first group is children. So the first contraindication for children is obesity. So for children who suffer from obesity, it will be important for them when taking part in exercise to keep a low intensity during the session, as fitness levels will probably be low as they're young and obese, so they probably don't do a lot of exercise. They're also young, so they're not fully developed, so this will keep fitness levels low. Therefore, a low intensity will help. Um, Also, obesity can mean the child may suffer from other issues, uh, like kind of as a byproduct of being obese, so they might suffer from high blood pressure or something like that. Therefore, again, it's key to keep the low intensity. So, team sports would be good for children. So, maybe for obese children, you could play football, just keep it quite relaxed. Maybe walking football if you really need to. So the next one is asthma. So for children who suffer from asthma, it will be essential not to push them at a high heart rate level. So it says 50 to 60% of their heart rate max. Um, Therefore, the lower intensity training would be great, as it will help them become fitter whilst making sure they do not have any asthma attacks while exercising. Obviously, if they do, you'd need their asthma pump. So again, another sort of team game would be good for this sort of thing, where you have to sprint a little bit, you have to walk, you have to jog. It kind of keeps the low intensity, but can have a mixture of higher kind of workout. And obviously, children love team sports. It's great to get children involved in team sports. So this would be another good example. Weaker bones. So children are not fully developed, so therefore will have weaker bones than adults. This will mean exercises like squats, bench press, maybe a deadlift should not be done, as the child's weak bones could break under those amounts of pressure. So no real like heavy weight bearing exercises should be done with children, and therefore more kind of cardiovascular training should be completed to kind of keep them fit and healthy. So my second group is the elderly. The three contraindications are hypertension, arthritis, and osteoporosis. And the prescriptions are keep weight bearing exercise to a minimum, exercises that work on flexibility, and no weight bearing exercise or contact sport. So, elderly people who suffer from hypertension, so basically this is like high blood pressure, they should not be taking part in any like heavy lifting, as this will obviously increase your blood pressure as blood is trying to be shifted to these muscle groups as quick as it can, and this will increase the pressure. If someone was to do this, this could have a serious effect on the person. It could maybe cause a heart attack, or uh, yeah, they might struggle a lot. So instead of this, I would recommend kind of like low intensity training. So maybe for old people, like a jog or a fast walk, just to kind of get out and get moving. Maybe like a running club or something like that. that will definitely get them involved with other people and maybe meet new friends, which could be another positive of prescribing the exercise. So arthritis is my second one. This is basically where movement at joints and bones is just restricted due to the joints just become old and then they don't work as well. So this is very common for the elderly to struggle with. So possibly an exercise such as yoga, where people work on kind of their movement and moving, like transitioning from one movement into another. This could actually maybe help improve the movement at the joints they have, which is reduced due to the arthritis. So therefore, the prescription of exercise is not only benefiting them like in fitness levels and making them live longer and stuff, it will then actually benefit the contraindication that's stopping them from doing other things. So therefore, if someone with arthritis was to work on it and build up more movement at joints, it could get them back into other sports which they couldn't do before. So that's a real benefit of the contraindication prescriptions. And lastly, for the elderly, is osteoporosis. This is the last one, and it is basically where bones become fragile and weak with age. They might be a bit brittle, and if too much pressure is put on them, they'll break quite badly. So therefore, you wouldn't be doing any like weight-bearing exercises or contact sport. Maybe walking and jogging again is another example which will help, as not a lot of pressure can be put on it. And when walking or jogging, you're not putting a lot of pressure on bones. And possibly, if you can't even do that, then you might have to find alternatives such as possibly like maybe performing an exercise in a gym. So maybe like a cycling bike with a really low resistance might be able to be complete, as again it will put little pressure on the bones and will keep them protected. As basically exercise, you want to gain the benefit, you don't want to then get another injury from it. Okay, so my last group is obesity, and the contraindications are hypertension, joint mobility, and diabetes. And the prescriptions are low intensity training to keep heart rate low, movement training to improve joint mobility, and low intensity to burn fat. So due to obese people suffering from hypertension, which is high blood pressure, as you said, it would be a good idea to keep the exercise at a low intensity, and then therefore base it over a longer period of time. So instead of working at a really high intensity for a short period of time, working at a low intensity over a longer period of time. This will therefore allow the person to burn as many calories as working at a high level without having to reach that high intensity, which could potentially risk a heart attack if they suffer from hypertension. One exercise they could try may be a long distance cycle ride at a slow speed, so therefore they're not going really fast and blood being rushed around the body at a really high pace. They're going at a slow pace, keeping their heart rate nice and low, to therefore prevent anything from happening that could potentially risk any injury or potentially death. So due to joint mobility, certain exercises won't be able to be completed. However, performing exercise which will help to improve the flexibility and mobility will aid this. So, for example, yoga or Pilates may help the athlete improve this. So, therefore, again, like for the elderly, the obese, if they can work on their joint mobility, if this is a problem for them, then they're benefiting from not only an increase in like fitness and health and well-being, but also the contraindication that stopped them from exercising is being improved. So meaning they could then, once they've got over the joint mobility, so if they've got really bad movement in their hip and they work on this, then maybe they could go back to playing football like they used to do when they were younger, like the guy in the picture. So yeah, for example, yoga or Pilates may help the athlete improve this. And lastly, diabetes could be another factor. And this might mean the person won't be able to work at a really high intensity, however, will need to take part in exercise. This is due to the fact that exercise reduces the chance of cardiovascular disease for people who suffer from diabetes. So I'd recommend a low intensity workout, which would maybe consist of continuous training or maybe like circuit training but at a low intensity. And I feel this will aid the person most, as it will reduce the chance of cardiovascular disease, but they're still getting that exercise in their lifestyle to keep them keep a healthy lifestyle, like reduce the chance of any other diseases and stuff like that.